Hello, my name's Yvonne and I'm a UK Stampin' Up demonstrator, and what I'm going to show you today is some cards made from the Night Before Christmas 6x6 Designer Series paper. Now I'm going to be using these papers and I'll show you the individual papers in a moment, but I have actually used a lot of the papers up so you won't be able to see the full sheets. But they're double-sided and they're more muted colours for Christmas, so they're really nice to work with. And then the other item I'm going to be using is the Joy of Giving tag kit. Now all I'm going to be using is the stamp set. So if somebody purchases the tag kit, then this is a way to use your stamps after you've done your tags. So you've got Have a Merry, you've got Christmas Separate, You've Been Very, Joy Made In, Santa's Workshop, To and From, Be Merry, and a couple of other items on there you can use for decoration. So this is what I'm going to be using today, this stamp set and the papers. So I'll just quickly go through the papers and then I'll be able to start. So this is the first paper, which is with and on the other side we've got red dots. Then we have reindeer on that side, and then we have a stripey on the other side. We have lights and then a checker crisscross effect on the back, and we have baubles, and then on the back we have a patterned paper. This one here is Santa in his sleigh, and on the other side it's got some a pattern of greens and stars. And then we have the stockings, and then we have some stripes on there. Now as I said, there are some more papers, but unfortunately I've actually used them, so as I'm showing you the cards then I can show you the full papers. Right, let's get started then. So the first card we're going to make is this, which is Have a Merry Christmas, with the candy canes on it and the ribbon. So just make sure you can see that. There you go. So this is one of the papers, the candy canes, where it's the full sheet is what I've used. On the other side it's got teacups and cookies. Right, so my cardstock I'm using is 4 1/4 by 5 7/8, and this sheet with the candy canes, I've just done it an 1/8 of an inch or smaller, just so you've got a frame. Right. So first of all I'm going to put the ribbon around the card. So this ribbon is also part of the set, and where's my... What I'm doing is just using some tape just to hold it at the back. And then we're going to pop that on there. Might have been a little bit low, but never mind. Now, when I said about using the tag kit, there are some leftovers in the tag kit, and some of the leftovers are the centres from some of the tags. So I'm actually using these on these cards. So that's going to go on there. And I need my ribbon. What I'm going to do is what they call a bunny bow. So it's putting 2 loops together. Oops. And folding them and tying them into a knot. And then you can just fiddle about with your bow how you want it. So I'm quite happy with that as it is. I'm just going to cut it. I'm just going to trim that one off as well. And then we can stick that on there, and instead of messing about putting bows on cards from one piece of ribbon, I'm just sticking the bow on it. It's much easier to do it rather than trying to tie a bow around your card and everything like that. So that's the way I do my bows, by using the bunny bow version. And you'll see it in a couple more times as well. And then I'm just going to use just a sticky dot at the back of my bow. I'm going to stick it on there. About there will do. And on the next part is we're going to use the stamps. I've not attached that on there yet. I'm just going to do the stamping bit first. So let me get my I'm just using my little mat from my Stamparatus just to make things a bit easier and a bit clearer. And where is my stamp? So these are all the stamps. They're all over the place at the moment because I've been using a lot of them. And sometimes I put stamps on rulers, so no wonder I can't find anything when I want it. And the ink pad I'm using today is what comes in the tag kit, and that would be, let me just check. So yeah, this is what is in the tag kit, and it is Poppy Parade Stampin' Spot. So that's all I'm using. I'm not using any other items apart from what comes in, what you get in the papers and what's in the tag kit. And as I say, these are just left over from making the tags. Right, so let's ink this up. Light tapping, and then just press it down. There we go. And on this particular card I used very vanilla cardstock and just stamped the Christmas, which is there. I'm just going to take that off. I'm going to stamp it and then just cut it out. This is just some scrap cardstock that I've got, and it's in the very vanilla. There we go. So that can stick on there with that. I'm just going to use my snail just for quickness. And I'm trying not to use too much equipment, because if you've bought the tag kit and you're not a crafter, then you won't have a lot of equipment. So pair of scissors, some tearing tape, some glue, and you should be fine. So my final bit is I'm going to stick that on there. Again, I'm going to use my snail for this, but whatever adhesive you've got is fine. Make sure it's the right way round. I'm just going to stick it on there. If you've got dimensionals left over from your kit, which you more than likely will be, you'll be able to use your dimensionals. I have used them on a couple of other cards. And I'm just using some tearing tape. Oops. This is not my normal tearing tape I have, because unfortunately I've run out, so it might not tear as great as the Stampin' Up tearing tape, but this is all I've got at the moment, so I'm just going to carry on. So I'm just popping that down, and that is your first card. So I'll put those to one side. And we'll start with the next one. So the next one is actually an offcut from the previous one. So all I've got is what was left over from me chopping the last one down. And all I'm going to do is use my tearing tape, I think. Oops, I tore it too much. So yeah, what I've tried to do with these cards is actually use the leftovers as well for other cards, and there are a couple of examples of that later on. So I'm just going to put this in the middle. And this is what I normally do, is I leave the paper long enough, turn it over and cut it. I may have cut into the card, but never mind. So this is how my normal process is. I don't really measure anything. I put it down, stick it on, and then cut off the excess. I always find having to do measurements and things, you get a bit too precise with things, and at the end of the day it's a homemade card, so I do like to eyeball things. Right. And sometimes they're straight and sometimes they're not, but right, where is that? Now in the tag kit you will get a D block. I'll show you the one that you actually get. It's a little bit thinner, but it is a D size block, and it's perfect for all the stamps. So I'm just alternating between the blocks that I've got to hand, but that's the one that you actually get in the kit. And if you haven't got a block, then I will happily show you what blocks will be suitable. As I say, it's normally a D block is suitable for quite a lot of things. I'm just putting those there. And then the Have a Merry. So yeah, when I'm not using stamps, I put them on my blocks. I stick them on the plastic, not in the right place, and sometimes I stick them on my punches, or I stick them on my ink pads. So sometimes I'm looking all over the place for them and I can't find them. It's because I've stuck them on top of something. Right, so to do that, have a Merry Christmas. And that's your next card. A really simple card, really simple stamping for that one. I did do a little bit more on this one, on my original one, but to be fair, I don't like it being too fussy, so I prefer that one. So that's second card. Right, the next one is going to be some other paper that you haven't seen. This is the postage one, and on the back is this colour, blue. There's like a blue and a green in it. I believe it'll be Night of Navy and Old Olive. Now on my original card I've done it this way, but instead I'm going to do it the other way. So again, I'm using one of the leftover tags from the tags kit, and this paper here is from an offcut, but you'll use the rest of the sheet for a full card, and I'm going to be using that in the centre. So as I said earlier, I'm trying to utilise as much of the paper as possible, and try this tear and tape again. There is a trick where you can use your block to tear it as well, which makes it a neater cut. So that can go on there. Make sure I got it the right way round. And that can go in the middle. So again, use my tearing tape. Just for quickness, I'm just putting it in the middle. Don't need to put too much into it. Ooh, nearly put it on upside down. Again, I'm going to turn it over and cut off the excess. And then this one is going to have to and from on it. And then I'm going to show you how to mask your stamps for the next part. And I'm getting red ink everywhere as usual. So, oh dear, that's because I've inked it up too much and I pressed it down, so we've got a red splodge. So what I'm going to do is clean my stamp. Turn it over and start again. Hopefully, I won't press down on it too much. There's always two sides to a piece of card. There we go. Right, so on this stamp set, you get a stamp that says Santa's Workshop, but all I want is Santa. So you can see it says Santa's Workshop. You'll be able to see it better through there. So what I'm going to do is mask off the bits I don't want. So I don't want the apostrophe and the S, and I don't want the workshop. Now I am using my tear and tape for this. Normally I would use post-it tape or even washi tape, but I'm going to be using tear and tape because this is probably what most crafters all have. So I'm going to ink up Santa. And I'm going to tear off the, should tear off all the tape. And to tear off the tape. Even the sticky backing. Throw that in the bin so I don't get sticky stuff everywhere. And then hopefully I'm going to put Santa. And there we go. So all I did was masked off the apostrophe S and masked off Workshop, inked just Santa up, and then took off the tape before I stamp. Make sure you take off the tape before you stamp, because if not you're going to get some horrible red marks all over the place because it all picked up the ink. So that one is nearly done, and all I need to do is put a hole. Now I better not use my ribbon scissors. I'm just going to put a hole, probably not big enough. It's nowhere near big enough. I'm just going to pop the scissors in and just make the hole a little bit bigger. You can use a hole punch to do this, and I would recommend that would be much better than doing it this way. But I can't find my hole punch, and I didn't want to use anything more than I had to. Come on. Doing very well here. A little bit bigger. Come on. Yes. Woo! So I'm just going to pull that through. Neaten that off, and then put that on the card. Again, I'm going to use my tear and tape. It is much easier when you use a block to tear your double-sided tape. So there we go, that's that card completed. So as I say, you can either do it that way in a portrait, or you can do it in a landscape. It's entirely up to you. Right, next card. Right, so this one, this was the other paper that you wouldn't have seen. It's a full 6x6 piece of paper, and I've not done a lot to it because the image does it all. On the back is the I believe it's crushed curry and some stars, which I used on the previous card. And I've done a bit of a cheat. I punched out my tag already out of this card. I'm just going to stick that on top. So if you don't want to waste your card, then you can just do that, but just make sure you don't put any glue anywhere near there. Right, so where is and that goes on there. I think this carded, these papers are really great for kids to use. Let them, their imagination run wild on what they want to do with them. And if you've got the Memories and More kit that matches this as well, then pretty much you've got all your Christmas cards that they'll need, because there's lots of cutouts in the Memories and More kit that I'll show you in a short while. Right, so so this strip here is actually from the previous cardstock, so I'm using the other side of it, and I'm going to just pop that, oops, in the middle again. So about there. Again, so on this one we're going to put some ribbon on there, so I'm going to flip it over and just put some tape at the back. Oops. So that's in place, and then our stamping is going to be Merry. And then we've got a deer on the front as well. So I'll put it all the way around. So I'm going to try and stamp it all at the same time. We'll see what happens. Now this particular tag I've punched out from Very Vanilla, and I've used the tag punch for that one. But if you haven't got the tag punch, then you could make your own tag, or you could use the template from this particular one, draw around and cut round and make your own tag. It's entirely up to you. I'm just going to lightly tap and be merry. There we go. So here again you could use your dimensionals, which I think I will for this because it's going over the top of ribbon. So I'm just going to put the dimensionals at the top and the bottom. I'm just using a couple. Now all I'm doing at the moment is doing the fronts of the cards. So then you'd put this card on a normal card. This is just the front, and then you can just stick it on. So you can make all your fronts ready, and then when you want to, is stick them all on your cards. I just find it easier for these demonstrations. So that's that one done. So yeah, it's, I say, no two one are the same. Now the next one is this one here, and we're using the bauble paper. So the bauble paper has that on the back. We're using that one, and again I'm using an offcut from the postage letters. So I'm using the offcut to create a border. This piece of paper is about 2 inches wide, and because of the direction of the baubles, I feel that it suits this direction rather than the portrait rather than landscape. But as I say, that's my personal opinion. Oops. So, oh, I'm just going to pop this on there. Yeah, my craft desk gets messy of all the tear off bits, and I end up just chucking them to one side until I have a clear up, which is basically when I can't see my desk anymore. Right, so again, I'm actually going to just use my snail for this. That's quite a thinner piece. Put that across there. Cut the excess off. And cut the excess off that one. So this one is just Be Merry, stamped on the Very Vanilla. And let's see if, let's do it on there. Right. I seem to be using my smaller block a lot at the moment because these stamps are quite small anyway. I think it's just what I've got to hand really. Right, I'm just going to use my trimmer to make that straight. I've just realised I've done what I normally do, and I don't actually use my trimmer on my desk, I use it on my knee. It's just force of habit. So, just chop that off because that's a rough edge. Just going to use my snail again. Now Stampin' Up have got a new trimmer coming out. Don't know exactly when it'll be available to purchase, but it will be available to demonstrators. So I will probably be giving a demonstration in a short while, but that's that card. Just a simple papers, let the papers do the work, and just some simple sentiments. Right,